Hey, hey,
Hey,
I'm Brian,
and I'm Kristen.
and this is the Brian and Kristen podcast. We are now on episode 12. Kristen and I are brother and sister. Every week, we take questions from the audience and we answer them, and it can be any type of question. And before we get into the question this week, Kristen, how's everything going with you?
It's been really good. So this was my first week as a Southwest flight attendant. So I got to travel the country, and I'm
Okay.
exhausted.
Okay. I know, and I appreciate you doing the podcast with me here on a Sunday before the week gets going, and because tomorrow I start back up my education. Uh,
Do you actually need to be rested up for that? I mean,
yeah, I have online classes for Edison Community College, and so I'm going to get my brain filled with propaganda as I go to.
I'm glad I took my Sunday off so you could have Monday for your propaganda. Are you kidding me? I wish I
Yeah.
would have done. I would have said Sunday is a no-go.
So, yep. So that's kind of our my thing tomorrow. So which states did you hit this week?
Let's see. I got to Connecticut. I went to Denver, California, your favorite state. I was in San
Uh-huh.
Jose for a night, and
Oh,
then back to Denver. Oh, I was in Chicago. I stayed in St. Louis. So there were quite a few places I got to hit. And then Norfolk, Virginia, back to Baltimore, and then back to St. Pete, all in
oh,
3 days.
dang. Now the only place I haven't been is Connecticut.
Well, I can't say I did much. I mean, we were there for about 30 minutes and then off again. So once you like on a day that you go to these different places, like I literally never got off the plane, which is kind of cool in a way, but it's a little intense.
So did you sleep anywhere? Like, I mean, obviously
Oh,
you slept somewhere, but did you go back to St. Pete, or how did it work? Did you,
no,
you
I
know?
stayed in St. Louis and they had a harmonica convention going on.
Whoa.
The hotel that I was staying in. So you hear harmonicas at like 2 a.m. You're like, really?
Yeah, you're not going to be rested up for the next day of travel, right?
No, especially not when you have to get up at 4 a.m. So yes, harmonicas going. So it was
Now,
I maybe had 9 hours of sleep in 2 hours in 2 days because of the schedule. But it's worth it. It's fun.
yeah. Now
And
that's
now I have 2 days off.
now, so the harmonica, I'm wondering what kind of people, because my Tom Petty had a harmonica, so I do like a lot of harmonica people, but I've also met some odd birds that walk around with the harmonica and just kind of bust it out on you when you're not prepared. So I'm curious how that is.
Yeah, no, I have a really good story. So I'm sitting there with I was there with the pilots. There was a guy pilot and then a female pilot, and she was younger. And then there's this guy that walks up and he has no teeth. And he was like, he said, I don't like wearing my teeth because they're uncomfortable. And I play a better harmonica when I don't have my teeth in. So he's given us this whole big story. And then he's telling us about how there's this kid that's about to play on stage who's a savant. And the kid was blind, but actually played the harmonica very well and his mom, of course, who I met in the elevator on the way down, um, says he's got perfect pitch because he's blind, so his hearing is very good. And so he actually was very, very good. But it was a little overwhelming when you're in the hotel and there's like a million harmonicas being played all day and you've spent, you know, 12 hours on a plane with a bunch of people. The last thing you want to hear is more noise.
Yeah.
A guy with no teeth that now plays a better harmonica without his teeth. And then my favorite part was, and I think you'll appreciate this, is like he said to me and the pilot, the girl who was a pilot, but you two have a lovely smile. So I thought that was really funny that he didn't have the teeth and he thought that we had a lovely smile. So anyway.
So he's from Kentucky, I take it.
I don't know. I wish I would have found that out. Let's just assume.
Covington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's great. So that's a lot of work. Were the customers cool? I mean, are they? I mean, because I get annoyed just sitting in the plane watching people try to stuff their bags up on the top shelf. So were they cool so far?
I mean, my favorite story so far was the woman that had her drinks on the tray table and then changed her child on the tray table. And then, for those who are listening and can't see Brian's face, it's
Oh,
priceless. You should actually go watch the YouTube of this. And she was nice during the one flight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah, agreed. But
inappropriate. Well, that's great. Well, I'll tell you that's a lot of fun, and I'm glad you're having a good job there. I just hopefully I'll get to see you one of these days when I'm traveling and catch a Southwest flight. Now, I guess I'll be buying Southwest tickets more.
yeah, for
Um,
sure. It'll be,
so
it'll be worth the price of entertainment for entertainment.
now, were there any dogs on the planes this week?
There were. I didn't. I saw like I think I only saw one or two, but I was working in the back of the plane, so I couldn't really see. And I feel like the dogs probably come on earlier, so I didn't really see that many. So I saw that there might have been one or two.
Okay, because that is bringing us to our question for the week.
Exactly.
It was a two-part question from last week to this week. Last week, Kid Meows wanted to know how how old Bestie was, which I mean we're thinking 14 or 15, right? And Bestie is our dog, my dog for. I mean, our dog, really, everybody's dog. I mean, I had him first, but he's kind of a community love bug. And so this week, and so part of the second part of his question, which we'll answer this week, is did you have any dogs growing up? Which, I mean, it's pretty much been nonstop dogs since I can remember.
Yep.
And do you remember all of our dogs, Kristen?
I think so. I mean, I feel like the number one story is Blue because Blue was dog number one, which Blue
Yes.
was a blue collie, hence the name.
Yeah, Blue. So Blue is a blue collie. He was a big dog, right? I mean, I feel like we were little, but he was probably 60 to 80 pounds, right? And this is the big story about Blue. When I was, and I gotta admit, I'm a little too young to remember this, but I'm gonna take Dad's word on it, okay? Uh,
Definitely
and mom's,
true.
yeah, and mom's word on it too, because she was there. But Dad was outside planting a tree, and I was playing in the mud, and I'm like 4 or 5 years old at the time. And he told me to quit playing in the mud, but of course I was a little kid, so I kept playing in the mud. And then he spanked me, and then he was working on the tree, and when he turned around, I was gone. Right, so he kind of freaks out. He runs down to the pond, see if I'm in the pond. He runs to the pool, sees if I'm in the pool, runs in the house, asks mom if she's seen me. She hadn't seen me. And then he goes to Blue's fence, and Blue was in a fence. He had his fence, and Dad opens the fence and tells him, "Blue, find Brian." And then Blue started running towards the hayfield, just running. And Dad thought he was going the wrong way. And he said, "Blue, you damn dog, find Brian. Blue, you damn dog, find Brian." And then Blue ran in a straight line to where I was in the middle of the hayfield. And so Dad said that Blue saved my life. And then years later, Blue got his stomach was sick. Do you remember this? When
Oh
Blue
yeah.
was real sick? And we took Blue to a vet in Cincinnati. And when we were there, the vet was looking at his stomach, and he said he's in a tough situation. You have two options. You can either let Blue go and he'll probably live for another 6 months, or you can give him surgery. He may survive, he may die on the table, is what the vet said. So then Dad said, "Well, Brian, he's your dog. You make the decision." So then I said, "Well, we should give Blue surgery." And then, of course, I'm with Dad all day crying, just a total mess, and, concerned. And that was a pretty heavy thing at a young age. And the vet came back and said, "Blue's going to be all right." And then Dad said, "Brian, you saved Blue's life."
Hmm.
So, I really didn't, but that was my decision to, give him the surgery. And so that was kind of the story of Old Blue, which we really loved Old Blue and wish he was still around, because that was a loyal dog. And when Mom would get rough with us at the pool, he'd always bite her butt. Remember that?
Yeah, you could like roughhouse, like he went and attacked. The other thing that's interesting about that story too, about sending Blue out, like Dad actually thought he was gonna have to like blow up the pond. Like it was like Dad thought like worst case scenario, like I'm gonna have to blow up the entire pond to figure out if Brian is in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
then I'll just be coming out, boom. I'll be blown up too. That doesn't even make
that
sense.
already. Now he definitely is.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. But yeah, yeah, that was yeah, he was, I guess, really freaking out, but it worked out all right, and I always felt really attached to Blue, and it was, it's sad when he got old and has trouble with his legs, and because he was such a strong dog, and only thing one time this cat came around and Blue kind of attacked that cat. I always can't. I still to this day thinking about that have a hard time seeing that because that cat come around on his. Blue was territorial and he got that cat. But other than that, I mean, but that's just the type of dog. Blue is a perfect dog. He was always trying to protect. I mean, if you wanted an animal that's going to protect your house, Blue was the number one.
Yep.
I mean, he really was, and he would always. When Mom would get rough with us, he wasn't having it. So he was a good dog for kids for sure.
Yeah.
And then we had Coco, we had Buster, we had Boots. There was Rowdy, and then Bestie, and then of course Mrs. M, who we spent a lot of time with. Always had beagles. And I remember Tubby. Remember Tubby that Mrs. M? I used to take naps on Tubby's stomach. She used to take naps on there. And so Coco was now Coco. I think he was named after Coco Beware, right? The Birdman from WWF.
I mean, that's the story that you have about it, but I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I never heard that until we did the podcast on the wrestlers, 4 weeks
Oh yeah,
ago.
that's true.
I don't know if that's a real story. I thought it was because of the color, because he was brown.
He was Coco. He was brown. He was brown. I think it was because he was brown, but in my world, it was Coco Beware.
Yeah, which, and keep in mind, Coco was a little dachshund, so that actually doesn't make any sense either.
He definitely wasn't jumping off the top rope. Well, I mean, he would with me when I would jump off.
Yeah, exactly.
Land
Poor
on you.
Coco had to be tortured. Yeah. So I have a Coco story, and I hate sharing. This story is still tough to share to this day, but
you don't have to. This one gets me too much.
But it's kind of a good one. I mean, it's sad, but well, okay, maybe I won't. But
no, you can't. You already started. Now you got to.
I mean, you can't leave the viewers hanging like that, the listeners. Yeah. So I don't know, for the people that know 4-H, obviously we're very country, and so 4-H is where you take like different projects. So you never took a dog to 4-H, did you? If you would think about it that long, I don't think you. I mean, I don't know, but I
went there. I went there, but I don't really think, because I remember being around the dogs. But I went there to the 4-H lady's house, and we went. But I don't think I actually went to the fair part. I mean, I don't think anybody would put that kind of pressure on me.
Just me. Just me.
Yeah.
Pressure for me to perform with a dog. So 4-H was like you showed your dog, but you had to train them how to sit and lay down and all these different things, and you would practice. And I think I was like 8 or 9. It was kind of young. So I had worked with Coco, but Coco was a dachshund. So dachshunds are hound dogs, which means that they like sniff things. Like that's just what they're supposed to do. So we went to this 4-H like practice round, and Coco sniffed everything, and he didn't do well. And I was frustrated, and I was embarrassed because I was young that he didn't do well. And I was so mad at him that night that I was like, oh, Coco, and this is terrible. I was like, Coco, I hate you. I wish you would die. I don't even know why I would say that. And then that night, he, and we live on a like a very large property where no dog should ever make it out to the road. And that night, we got a call in the middle of the night that said that Coco had been hit by a car. So literally that same night, Coco ran out and got hit by a car. And that was when I was 8 or 9 years old. And so that still is traumatizing. Like I'm not crying in this moment, but that is the story that I will tell, that I will still cry, that the Coco got hit that same night that I said that. And I don't even know why I would say something like that. I just remember being frustrated. But here's the moral of that story is like, be careful what you say, because you don't know how powerful or something that you could say could actually happen. And so, at 8 or 9 years old, that was the impact of saying that. So anyway, that's my Coco story. But Coco was my first dog. Coco was technically my first dog.
He was your dog, man. And I love Coco because I'll always mess with Coco. Now, one time Coco bit my nose. Remember that?
You probably were deserving.
Oh, I kept waking him up, and I would wake him, and then he finally bit my nose, and then. But yeah, I remember that day. That was a sad day, and for me, I remember it because when I woke up that day, I didn't know anything had happened, and I was, getting ready for the day, and I was thinking about playing with Coco all day in my head.
Oh no.
And then I came out to the family room and everybody was crying.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know
that
that.
always stuck with me. So now I never get excited about things because I don't know what's going to happen.
My God, that's traumatizing. You never get excited because you don't know what's
I'm
going
always
to
afraid if I get too excited about something.
Somebody's going to be dead.
Yeah, ever since then I've been like that. I've been like afraid to get way too excited. I get excited, but then I remember that and I better,
Wow.
So yeah, and then there was Buster. We might as well go through and give every dog their credit, right? So then there was Buster, and Buster was just like Buster ended up being mainly mom's dog, right?
I
Because
don't know about that. I mean, I feel like Buster was the second half of Coco. Like, I feel like Buster was kind of my dog until I went to college.
yeah, that's true.
Mom was
And then,
responsible, but yeah.
yeah,
Buster
second
was cool.
he was the second Coco. Because when we had him, he was in our hand. He could fit in your hand, literally, right? When we first
Yeah.
got him. And then yeah, I guess that kind of was the second, yeah, Coco. And then there was and in that time, Boots came around at some point. Dad got Boots from one of his clients, I think. And
Another
then
great form of payment, a dog.
yeah, somebody couldn't pay their bill, so they say, "Hey, you want a dog?" And we also can't afford to take care of our dog. Here you go. And and I loved Boots.
Crazy. That dog was out of control.
Out of control, man. It was so cute. It's Boots because its paws were white and it was black and it was a cute dog, but it just up and ran off one, like literally, like it would always be running away, and then one day we just go and find him. So
Yeah, I don't think Mom was disappointed when that happened.
oh, she wasn't. Mom, were you disappointed? I was. I liked Boots, and then so then there was Buster, Boots,
and then Rowdy.
and then Rowdy. And Rowdy, he came along. What, your junior year, my senior year of high school, or no?
I think
before
so.
that.
Yeah. I think junior year. Yeah, I was in study hall, and then the girl that worked in the principal's office came up and she's like, "Your family likes dogs, don't they?" And I was like, "Yeah, they do." She's like, "Well, we just got one that came into the school. Do you want to take it home?" And I was like, "Oh, I better call Mom on this." And then it was like, "Well, we can maybe keep it until we find its home." We never found its home. Its home was our home. Max was a beagle, which meant like he just sniffed everything. If he got out, like, I mean, he'd be miles down the road and neighbors would be calling, like, "I think we have your dog."
Yes. He would be Miles, and he would, and what was fun about him, because he lived up to his name as Rowdy, right? Because he ran through the school. That's how you found him. And then I would sit at the door and go, "Oh," and then Rowdy would go, "Oh," just drive Mom crazy. and then, and then, and then of course, Bestie came along,
Right.
and Bestie's still here, and we got Bestie, and that we kind of talked about Bestie last week. So that that would sum up the dogs we had, and we got some cats here as well. But that kind of sums up the run of the dogs we had, not to mention all the neighbors' dogs and everything like that. So yeah, pretty traumatic stories with dogs, right?
Yeah, those are not. I mean, I don't know what whatever Ken's name, Ken 38, whatever.
Yeah, mouse. Yeah.
I don't know what type of stories he was expecting, but I'm venturing to say probably not those.
But hey, it's fulfilling, and it's just the time for me, for at least talking about the dogs, man. The time flies by. I mean, there's just so many good dog stories, and I mean, and you think about how important dogs are, because I tell you, if I didn't have little Bestie around me over 2020, I mean, I was already ticked off at the world. At least like having a dog around to calm you down. I mean, they really are service animals, because they help
Right there.
people.
You look like maybe you should bring him in for one last shot.
I should, but he's walking down the hall, and I have to jump.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Got it.
he's wandering around tonight, but But I get that's
when he's not sleeping or eating, he's wandering around.
he's just wandering. Yeah, he's hearing my voice. I should have brought him in here, but I guess he can't.
That's okay.
I was gonna, yeah. But well, that was a good session, Kristen. We'll do it next week, okay?
Yeah. What's the question for next week? Or do we have
So
it?
next week the question is from Pamela, Ohio, and she is asking what our perfect career would be. Basically, if you could have any job, what would it be, or are you already in that job?
Got it.
So,
Okay.
so that's our one for next week. So, well, thanks for joining me, and see you on the next one.
All right. Bye, Brian.
Bye.